Well, here we are. It is a little after 10 o'clock, my time here in the Mountain Time Zone, just south of Denver, a little suburb called Highlands Ranch. It's where I'm coming from. Hopefully, I've got some folks joining me on here. If not, I just get to listen to myself talk for a while. But we should be live now, streaming on StreamYard, on LinkedIn, and our channel on Substack. So, no, I had a number of folks registered here, and doubt a bunch of folks were going to be in attendance. A bunch of folks wanted the recording, but hopefully this is a topic that gets some attention and really hit you where you need some input. Really just trying to help folks, partnership leaders in particular, partnering people, really think about ways that AI is going to help them accelerate their programs and their plans. It's midway through the year, more than halfway now. If you are a partner manager, partner leader, team leader, your plan is in place, your partner strategy in place. You've been executing on it. But have you sat down and created your own AI strategy, whether you're a team leader or an individual contributor? Everyone should have their partner strategy, but everybody should have their AI strategy to support that partnering strategy and the objectives you have for your partner program. So yeah, let's hit that. So I am doing a giveaway today. I want to make sure there's a benefit to folks to attend. If you have registered, you will be on the list. If you have just dropped in and have not registered yet formally for the event, scan the code here or go to the link here on the screen. If you are registered and if you are in attendance, we will give you the opportunity to win. So what is it that you can win? It's an offering that I have. It is a strategy plan. It is not an assessment. It is not a diagnostic. It is that stuff combined with a deliverable that is your AI strategic plan and all the steps that are required to go through. And then we're going to go through that today. What are the things you need to be thinking about as you put together an AI strategic plan? A couple of folks. Hey, good. I'm getting some comments here. I've got some folks in attendance. So sometimes you don't know on these streaming platforms and the webinar platforms whether folks are actually out there and attending. So definitely give me some feedback. The comments are great and keep me pointed in the right direction as we go through this. So, like I said, last chance to register for the giveaway here. Hi, Tom, Amir, good to see you. Nacho, thanks for dropping in. So I'm going to test something here. I'm using StreamYard for the webinar here. I am going to pop up a widget here. I want to get a sense of where you're at with AI today. I talk to a lot of people, consultants, partnership leaders, lots of other folks, really just exploring AI and the opportunities that it presents. And I find, kind of across the spectrum of what AI can do for you and how deep you can go down that rabbit hole, most folks end up in one of these buckets. So the way these polls work on StreamYard, just in the comments, put a 1, 2, or 3 or 4, whatever coincides with the answer that aligns with you. And we'll kind of talk about the evolution of, what AI is capable of these days. But, I think just about everybody who uses AI in some form or fashion today is starting in position 1. That's where we all kind of started with ChatGPT and Gemini and some of the other tools. Just a chat interface. You put in your prompt and you are getting text back in that. But over the last year, maybe year and 6 months, 18 months or so, AI has come a long way in terms of actually accomplishing things for you, whether you are using tools like Claude Cowork and now Codex or ChatGPT has the work function. They've kind of played copycat with Claude and that interface, but using that tool to actually delegate work and up with things. So somebody give it a try here. I don't know. I should be seeing things here in real time. I'm not seeing if the poll numbers are going through, but something I got to work on here and learn about on StreamYard. But, and then the other end of the spectrum is, people are deploying agents, real-time autonomous technology that are doing things in the background for us and for our teams. And I think really that's where the evolution is at today. There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of talk about it, but it is actually something we can accomplish today. We can do it on our own. We can do it for ourselves. We can do it for our teams. And there's tools that make this more and more accessible all the time. The way I see it is, well, I guess the next one, who the heck am I and what the heck am I talking about here? And why am I talking about partnerships? Well, that's what I've been doing for over 20 years in the partner space. I have run programs. I have run integration marketplaces. I have established ecosystems for co-sell partners. I've worked mostly on the vendor side, content management, commerce platforms, and built really ecosystem approaches within that. And I partnered with hundreds of agencies, system integrators, and others through that time and figure out how do we partner, how do we create win-win scenarios, and how do we bring value to both organizations as we leverage relationships. And that's really what it's all about. 3 years ago, I launched my agency, The Power of Partnering. We are now the AI agency for partner teams. And, that really coincided with the rise of AI and these new technologies and what we're seeing, in the market today. So I've always been a technologist at heart. My, degree, I studied computer engineering in school. I came out, first step in my career was in professional services. So I was coding and doing implementation and delivery work for an e-commerce platform, and really had a technology bent. And I still really enjoy that. I got away from that quite a bit as I moved more into sales and then partnerships, but I always really liked, systems and, making things connect and work, and the technology that underlied that. And so, I've really embraced AI as an enabling technology and gotten back into more of the technology side of things. But taking that and applying it specifically to partnerships. And I think there's a ton of opportunity there. And there's a few reasons for that. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but this is where I've really pulled things together here the last couple of years. So I'm operating The Power of Partnering as an agency. We do advisory consulting and more AI consulting for partner teams. That's kind of the primary line of business I'm in right now. A couple other things that I've layered on top of that. I run a newsletter called Partech Stack. We cover partnering technology. I haven't really found any other outlets that are looking at the partner technology space and covering it from a news and innovation perspective. And so trying to provide that service to a broader market and provide some more insight, exposure, and really, provide some more visibility to some amazing technology that is coming to the market today, addressing the partner space. I think we're all familiar with PRM, or partner relationship management tools. That's not necessarily a new category. There's lots of new entrants in that category, but there's a lot of new additional technology aside from, pure PRM technology that is new and innovative and exciting right now. And we are, we're covering that and trying to bring some more visibility to that. So take a look at Partech Stack and you'll see if there's some things of interest to you in there. And let us know if there are technology vendors you're working with or interested in that we should be covering in that publication. My other publication is newsletter, and it's kind of layered in with this approach as well. So we call it Partnering with AI. A little bit of a play on words, focusing on partnerships, partnering professionals and how they can leverage AI in their careers. But in general, how are we all partnering with AI today to grow in our careers, to grow in what we're able to do with our business? And I think whether you're a partner professional or not, there are lots of opportunities to partner with AI as you are building your whether you're a consultant, whether you're working in a corporate role, whether you are on partnerships or otherwise. There's a lot of takeaways in terms of how you can partner with AI in those pursuits, and that's what I write about. You cover a little bit about where we're at with AI today. We're all used to and we pull it up all the time. Even in our personal lives and things outside of work. But you want a quick answer, you want some feedback, you want some content. Pull up the chat bot and run it through there. I'm a big fan of Perplexity. I think Perplexity for me really changed the game in terms of search. And you've seen obviously Google adopt this as well. But when I go to AI and I want to ask a question, I want an answer. Google used to give us a list of things to research to find our answer. And that was great for a long period of time. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we weren't looking for a list of things to research. We were looking for answers to questions. And I think AI has really brought that to the table. And it's changed a lot of things, right? The advertising around that is going to evolve and be much different than it's been with Google. But answer engines, Chats is helping us answer questions that we have, and it's helping us summarize. Take a look at a document. Take a look at some information that I'm reading. Help me summarize that. I'll be honest. I have AI summarize YouTube videos for me more than I have time to sit down and watch entire YouTube videos. So it does a fantastic job of summarizing information into, you can tweak the format you want it in. You can get into the format that you want to see that information in. Brainstorming, that's a big, use case that I use AI for a lot as I'm exploring different offerings that I want to develop and different things that I want to build my business around. I use brainstorming a lot with the chatbot with really no end state that I want. I just want some ideas and some feedback and some critique of things that I might be putting together. So, things that your chatbots and chat interfaces are really good at. But, over the last, again, year or so, and I think it was quite honestly overhyped last year, but agentic AI has really, come to the fore over the past year or so. And we're seeing not only is it giving us, as our AI is giving us feedback and it's helping us, generate text and content, but it's actually doing things for us. And, for a long time, I struggled with that. I had to sit down at one point and really think about, particularly the term agentic AI. And, I think that was really, really overdone last year, and you couldn't, go anywhere without being hit over the head with, agentic AI. And in my mind, that meant these, agents who are out there, doing all of these things autonomously, and they were going to, replace us in our jobs, and they were going to take over, and you're going to have companies full of these agents. But I think that was a little bit premature. I'm not saying that, we're not getting there now with these agents, but I had to really figure out what people were talking about when it came to agentic AI. So as we move from generative AI, which was really just you put in a prompt and you get text back. That was the original generative AI through the chat interfaces we were using. Agentic AI simply means an AI that can do things for you. And I struggled with that. It didn't necessarily mean, this entity that I was creating that was doing things autonomously for me. Agentic AI still applies when I'm using, things like Claude Cowork and the other desktop tools, as I'm going through a workflow and I'm connecting it to other systems and saying, analyze the notes from this call that I just had with a partner and update my PRM record with that. It's doing things in a multi-step fashion for me. It's not necessarily doing it autonomously. I'm still prompting it along the way. I'm giving it guidance, but it is agentic, agency. I'm giving this tool agency to actually do things for me rather than just create text. Now we can layer on some autonomy. Now we're getting into actual agents that I thought we were talking about for the last 18 months, but we're actually now getting to the point where I can say, even within our Cowork interfaces, I think there's a differentiation between desktop agents and cloud agents, and I kind of draw the line there. If you're using Claude Cowork, Codex, and you're doing scheduled tasks, to me that's an agent. It's a desktop agent. It's only running locally on your laptop. As soon as you close the lid or you shut it down, or you pack up your laptop and take a trip, it's not running anymore. So I think that's a particular limitation of it. And I still have to kind of have that interface open and tell it, what I want it to do and where I want it to go with this information that it's doing and the tasks that it's accomplishing for me. But now the next step is, how do I take those desktop agents and those automated tasks and scheduled tasks that I'm creating and move them into the cloud? And I really think that's where, some of the end state is going to be for us here. As professionals and as individuals is one thing, but I really think when you get to teams and organizations, that's where the real power is, where you have these agents running for you in the background and helping you accomplish more and guide you in the right direction. And that's really where I see the application for partnership leaders and partner teams being. How do I define these autonomous things that are happening in the background all of the time for me that are checking really important things off the list? I am not a futurist. I don't have the answers when it comes to what's the big picture as far as AI and what are the long-term effects going to be. I don't know, is it going to take all of our jobs, or are we going to have 30% unemployment at some point? Is it going to disrupt, the entire economy? I don't know. I don't know where, the big picture is headed. I don't know what, the data center ramifications are going to be. I do think about those things, and I do think they're important to think about. But my focus on a day-to-day basis is, how can I leverage this technology to do more, accomplish more, and get more done in my day-to-day and help me accomplish my professional and role objectives. I think, that other stuff's interesting to think about. But I'm really focused on the here and now. How can I use these tools today to help me accomplish more and get the things done that I want to get done? So not trying to be a futurist, but and I'm not trying to ignore, the bigger picture when it comes to AI, but my focus when I'm working with my clients and, doing my writing and doing my advisory work is, how do these tools help us today to be more effective? Again, my audience, the folks that I'm talking to primarily are partner teams, partnering professionals. And I've been in that role, for many years in my career. And I've experienced this firsthand many times. I think partnership teams, partnership leaders are asked to accomplish a lot with few resources. Very rarely do we have a lot of budget to spend. We don't have operating systems. We don't have established tools and platforms that are kind of the go-to framework for partnerships. Marketing people, there's 14,000 SaaS solutions on the market today for marketing folks. Every new head of marketing or CMO that's hired has their preferred tech stack that they want to go to market with. If you look at the partner tech space, it's much, much smaller. From a part tech standpoint, I'm tracking about 120 technology providers in that space addressing that market. So much, much smaller and really less structured in terms of the tools and the solutions available to it. But we are still expected to do heroic things with our partner programs. We're asked to do a lot with very little. I've come in and I've been the 0 to 1 partner manager at 6 organizations in my career. And I've been handed a revenue number, which, might over time be expected to be in the range of 30 to 40% of new business for a partner, for an organization within 2 to 3 years. Again, without a lot of budget, on a prove it type model. Make it work first, and then we'll make the investments required. So, and that's kind of a typical approach to partnerships. And I think that's something that continues to be a challenge for partners and partnering folks and partnership leaders. I think, that's something we have to deal with. But AI gives us a foundation to address those challenges. I really believe AI, if you take advantage of and build around it in the right way, will help you level the playing field when it comes to the expectations and the things that you can deliver as a partnering professional. All of these things that you need to be accomplishing. Now, look, any partnership role is going to be focused on the revenue number. That's why we partner. That's why, folks hire us. But that is a trailing revenue, or excuse me, that's a trailing number, right? That's something that comes after a lot of activity. So what is the activity we need to be focusing on? What's the activity we need to be generating? What's the engagement we need to be creating within our partner organization? And what is going to lead to the right level of activity that's going to allow us to hit those revenue targets that we've been giving? And so these are the types of things that I think about when I'm helping partner teams and partner programs figure out where AI can help them. I think one of my beliefs is, and I think there's an opinion out there that says, partnerships just naturally fall into an 80-20 Pareto principle, realm. And I think that's a little bit self-fulfilling. I think it's not necessarily a Pareto problem. I think it's a bandwidth problem. I think, we're limited in what we can accomplish, and we end up focusing on 20% of our partners and, get 80% of our results from that partner set, because we don't have the bandwidth to do the things to address the rest of our partner program. I don't think you have the wrong partners. I think for the most part, we need a better way to engage and make sure we are covering the partners that we have. And so we can get that coverage through things that AI can help us do. We can monitor our partners for signals. We can have AI help us, decide when we need to make outreach. I think, again, in that partner manager role, I've been in many times in my career, when you are fully ramped, you fall back into a mode where, you're trying to keep your inbox empty and you show up for whatever meetings on the calendar. Doesn't mean the things in your inbox are the most important things you should be focusing on. Doesn't mean you're prepared when you show up to that partner cadence call or the next thing that shows up on your calendar. So those are the types of things that AI can help us with. Focus on what's important, make us proactive instead of reactive as we're engaging with our partners. So, but again, I talk to a lot of people. They say, well, the key part of the partnership is that human-to-human relationship. And I'm not saying, giving that up. I think that still is the key to any partnership, any system, and any type of, partnering approach. And, some people then fall back to the position that, well, AI has no place in partnerships. And I think that's wrong. I think AI can help us decide when and where to leverage our relationships, how to leverage those relationships, how we want to engage, making sure we can do all of that at scale and automate some of that. It doesn't mean that I want AI sending my emails for me. It doesn't mean I want AI, doing my social media posts or commenting or engaging with my partners directly. It does mean that AI can be in the background spinning these things up for me and saying, hey, don't forget about this, or you've got a call coming up with your partner. Here's a dashboard that, aligns to your plan with this partner. Here's what you need to be talking about. The last time you got together, here's what you talked about. Be prepared to address this. Here's what you said you were going to do last time you communicated with this partner. Where are you on those follow-up items? Those are all of the types of things that I want AI doing for me in the background. I still want to do the engagement. I still want to make the connections. I don't think that goes away. I think that's still the key part of, any type of partnership management. But again, how can I do that at scale? I think AI plays a big role in that. So as you think about what AI can do for you in your partner programs and in your relationships, just think about your objectives. Again, everybody's got a revenue objective. That's par for the course, but everybody should have a partnership plan that breaks that down into smaller objectives. Do I need to recruit more partners? Do I need to do a better job of activation and enablement of the partners that I have? Do I need to improve the onboarding process? Do I have a long tail problem? Again, am I in that Pareto trap where I don't have the bandwidth or the capability to effectively address, 80% of my partners who are the long tail? How am I going to use AI to, achieve the objectives around the partner program that I have established? So hopefully those are the things that you have established. Yes, I'll say we've got a co-sell motion. How do we improve the metrics around that? Maybe, when we look at those co-selling opportunities, maybe we're stalling in specific spots in that process. Maybe the communication process falls through the cracks occasionally. How do I improve that, and what are the tools and what are the workflows that I can create that will help me do that over time. And then start thinking of workflows, not in just isolated tasks. Okay, I need to go out and send a bunch of emails to new partners that I want to engage with or recruit into my program. Well, that's a task. That's not a workflow. Where does the workflow for partner outreach and engagement fall? What are the step-by-step processes that I need to do that? And then start to apply the tools and the prompts and the frameworks that I need to accomplish that. So think about not just the individual tasks that I want to have AI help me with, but what is the end-to-end workflow that's going to help me accomplish that and lay that out. And then as you think about defining that, and how do you communicate it? Because unless you're a lone wolf independent consultant or something like that, you've got a team that you're working with, either managing a team of partner folks, or the team above you, that you have to be able to articulate what you want to accomplish, how you want to accomplish it. And so start with the why, start with the end objective, decide what the inputs to that process are, define the process, and then what am I getting out of that process? And these are all important things to think about. And we need to move from really just kind of ad hoc engagement and ad hoc usage of AI into well-defined processes that we can iterate on and we can improve over time. So these are some of the things to be thinking about. How do you manage all that? Well, as it happens, I've developed a framework to do this. I call it the PartnerFlow agent canvas. It can be an agent, it can be a workflow. It doesn't really matter. I throw agent in there just to be a little bit more on the cutting edge. But if you're interested, scan the QR code. You should get a link to a PDF document that I put together. Should be something that would be of interest to you as you are figuring out how to go through this process and designing these workflows. I'll give you a minute here to scan that. But I'll also pull up the next page. I'll show you what the workflow looks like. But grab that scan. I'll put a link into the follow-up for the webinar as well. So this is what the PartnerFlow framework looks like. And again, we want to start from a top-down perspective when we define what we want these tools to do for us. And start with why. What is the problem we are trying to solve? And then what is the expected outcome want from this process we're defining? And so starting with those is really getting it clearly put down on paper, what you're trying to accomplish and why. It goes a long ways towards not only helping you define what you're trying to accomplish, but again, as you're trying to articulate with your team, with your management in terms of what you're asking for, it goes a long way for that. And then we break it down to inputs, outputs, and the process. And so we need to know, again, our workflow, our agents, our AI, we can connect them to systems. Where do those systems reside? Is it a CRM? Is it a PRM? Is it a spreadsheet someplace? Is it a form on our website? Are there other data sources that we need for information that is critical to the process? So we need to define where that data is, how we get to it. As we're thinking about input, thinking about triggers as well. I think it's important as you are thinking about workflows. When do you want that workflow to happen? Is it something that happens every day? Do I want it to run, at 5 a.m. so it's a process that's got some output that's sitting there ready for me when I get to, my inbox in the morning? Is it something I want run on more of an action basis? When someone fills out a form on the website, I want this workflow to kick off. When someone sends me a specific email, when I get a Slack message. So those are the types of triggers that you can kick off. And again, that's getting us away from that chatbot prompting process. The more we're dependent on manually kicking off a workflow, the less effective, this AI enablement and engagement and acceleration is going to be for us. So think about triggers other than me sitting down at a keyboard and putting in a prompt. So now the output, what do we want to get out of this data? Is it a report? Is it a dashboard? Is it, a message? Is it content? What are we trying to get out of it? So think about it in terms of output. Where do we want that output to go? Is it an email? Is it a Slack message? Is it a document? Is it something that I want pushed into my systems of record, whether they're PRM or CRM type solutions? Where do I want that data to go? And what are the alerts, right? Do I want alerted when it's completed? Do I only want to be alerted on an error? Does that alert go to me? Does it go to someone else in the organization? So think about, where that goes. Is it output alert? Is it error alert? How do we manage that process and finalize it? And again, now that we know what the input is, now we know what the output is, what's the process? What's the workflow? When we define the workflow, now we can start to apply tools. Is it an AI tool? Is it a workflow tool? Are there other things that I have in my, on my workbench that I can leverage for this workflow and making it happen? And then, the final piece is, again, this is, if I'm taking this and asking for support on this, I have to think about security. I have to think about who within the organization needs to buy in and be informed on this, who has to sign off on this process? Who has to sign off on the things that I'm asking for, and making sure, that we can access those systems in this way, making sure, any security issues or concerns are addressed. So think about, what are the tools that I'm using? Do they need to be, validated? Do we need to test that? Do we need to provide credentials for those tools? And then who ultimately is going to give us the okay to go through this? So those are things to be thinking about as you're doing your workflow definition. And this framework gives you a good way to kind of walk through that. I've got Figma definitions for this. I've got other dashboard tools that you can use to kind of create these workflows and definitions. You can do it just on a piece of paper. It's pretty easy. But just having the framework, I think, goes a long way in terms of helping you figure out, how to put this down on paper and define what you want to accomplish. So you've defined your workflow. You know what you want to get out of it. You know what you want these tools to help you do. Now, what does that look like? How are you going to create these things? You can build. You can level up your skill set. You can bring someone in, from a consulting standpoint to help you, get to that point and build with these tools, design custom workflows and help you deliver those. You can up level. You can take some training. You can get some training on how to create these. Now, that's tough for most folks as they own this. And they're responsible for making it happen. Everybody has a day job, but everybody kind of has this second job now is how do I figure out AI to help me do my real job? And that might be something you can accomplish on your own. It might be something that, it's beyond, what your skill set is. So you bring someone else in to help, or you can buy. There's some great solutions out there. And I'm going to cover a few of those here that, that I'm working with, that I'm partnering with, that I'm covering in the ParTech Stack newsletter. There are solutions that are being delivered for the partnering space that are really covering important areas. So, it may not be necessary to, build everything that you need here. There's our buy options as well. But even if you go down that buy path, right, there's still going to be workflows that still, surround those and support those. So you ultimately need to merge those. But I think everybody's going to have to figure out where that spectrum of build and buy, and then ultimately merge them together to accomplish what you're looking for. So be thinking about that process as you're doing it. So let's talk about some of the solutions out there that are doing really innovative things when it comes to AI. I really like Hitwit. Full disclosure, Hitwit's one of my most recent clients. I'm helping them figure out their go-to-market strategy and their positioning. But Badri and his team are doing some really incredible things that I think are really important in the partnering space. I think they're really focused on enablement. And I think there's really two forms of enablement we need to be focused on in our partner programs. Obviously, we want to enable our partners upfront. But that's a hard process to manage. A lot of times in the past, before we had, these tools and before we had, AI and some other things, we did a lot of lunch and learns. We did a lot of kind of generic LMS tools, learning management system tools, and try to put some partner specific content into those. We mandated a lot of sessions. We mandated that people come in, but those were one-time activities in a moving target, right? Our partners are always bringing in new folks to the organization and trying to up-level them and provide them the enablement they need. So Hitwit's allowing us to do that in an on-demand fashion. They are doing a lot of really good and amazing work, honestly, in terms of ingesting product information and dynamically creating certification enablement content around that. It's specifically oriented towards sales. It's specifically oriented towards channel or partner sales. And so the certification and the enablement content it's creating is very specific and very targeted towards those use cases. And the alternative is you're using some of those older LMS tools and you're creating manually, or you've got an LMS person that's trying to figure out the right positioning for channels and sales organizations. This is all built into the AI that Hitwit's bringing to the table, and I think is really a game changer. The time to value there is really interesting. And then the other thing that Hitwit does that's really interesting is real time enablement. So they actually have an agent that sits in or can be on the desktop for your partner sales agents. And they've got a really good case study with their customer Exabeam. They increased their partner conversion rates, their sales conversion rates in the channel from 11 to 19%. So they had an 8% uptick in opportunities and close rates when the agents or when the sales reps were taking advantage of these agents, giving them real-time feedback and real-time information about the products that they were reselling for. So really interesting metrics coming out of that and really interesting capability. Happy to make some connections there with Hitwit and what they're doing there. I think is really innovative. Another one I think is really interesting and doing a little bit of work here with Chris Messina that's building this out. He's built out Quark AI. And the interesting thing he's doing here is not just looking at your partner program as an ecosystem, but he is taking all of the data you have available about your partners and about your partner program and taking all of that information and delivering intelligence about that. And he's looking at the ecosystem not as, places to, engage and invest time, but as an investment portfolio itself. Who are the partners that are paying off? What are the processes we're doing with those partners and the engagements we're doing with those partners that, are going to pay off? And so he's got a ton of metrics and dashboards that, he's able to show and help you as a partner leader show if you need to make investments. If I'm spending another dollar or I'm asking for a dollar to support my partner program, what's that ROI going to be? And so I think that's really key in terms of how we're looking at our partner programs in the future. Ecosystems are important, right? How does everybody create a win-win scenario here? How does everybody engage and participate with each other? But from the outside looking in, where am I getting the most bang for the buck? Or my buck as someone who is orchestrating this ecosystem. And I think Quark gives you the data and the insight to make better decisions about what's going on in your partner program. So I invite you guys to take a look at that platform. It's really interesting what Chris has going on there. I see a couple of questions coming through, John. I'll get to that. I'll do it in a QA session. We'll open it up here at the end, but I'll address your question here. One more I wanted to cover. John Mead is over in Scotland, of all places, doing really interesting things with Partner Bridge. He's got a great data set and he's building out capabilities all the time. If you want to evaluate your existing partners against your ideal partner profile, if you want to go out and recruit new partners, if you're expanding your partner program, he's got a fantastic tool that allows you to really do the research and the due diligence on partners and partner matching. That's really cool. I think goes a long ways. I'm a big believer that data is going to play a bigger and bigger role in the success of our partners and our partner programs over time. And I think with all three of these solutions I just presented, I think data is kind of the foundation. Hitwit is looking at the product data and making it actionable, bringing it to the fingertips of your channel salespeople. I think it's really key. Quark is looking at the data that you're generating every point in your channel program and in your partner program. So taking all that data and compiling it and helping you make decisions and investment approaches. John's just compiling as much data as possible about all of the organizations out there, whether they're tech vendors, whether they're agencies, whether they're system integrators. He's got a huge database that, again, all of these things are going to allow you to make better decisions over time. And as we are empowering AI and as we're asking AI to make some of these decisions for us and we're giving more autonomy over to these tools over time, the more data we can give them, the better off they're going to be over time and the better results we're going to get from these AI tools. And so I think that's important to keep in mind. If you want to take a deeper dive into any of those platforms, happy to make those connections and connect you to Badri or Chris or John. We really just wanted to showcase some of the really interesting things they're doing with AI in support of partner programs. So I made an offer at the beginning of the program, and we'll do our giveaway here in a minute. But I put together a package that I think is a great starting point for folks that are looking at how do I apply AI to my partner program? How do I create an AI strategic plan? And that's what I am helping you deliver with this offering. Can you do this by yourself? Can you do this in there? Absolutely. But I think there's a lot of value in having somebody come in externally and taking a look at your processes, taking a look at how you structure things today and getting some of that external feedback on that. But you want to look at the high impact opportunities. So we come in and we're offering, we do an evaluation. We do interviews with your team, your partner leaders, with other stakeholders within partner program or tied to partner outcomes. And we do an assessment of what's that look like today. We identify what those high impact opportunities are. We take you through the design and the PartnerFlow framework that we did earlier. We take out what are those high impact opportunities. Let's lay them all out. Let's come up with a plan and a solution to address those opportunities within your partner organization. So at the end of the day, you will have a deliverable. It will be your AI strategic plan for your partner program. That's something then you can take to your leadership and say, this is what we want your investment in, and this is why. This is the benefits we're going to see from this. This is the ROI we're going to get from this. I think this is important at this stage. I think most of the partner folks that I talk to say, yeah, we've been given some tools. The whole organization has Claude Coworker. Everybody has ChatGPT. We have some licenses, some access, some capabilities is not a plan. I think everybody needs to be thinking about the plan that they have for taking AI and applying it and generating the outcomes and the the targets that they've been given within their partner programs. And I think this is something that can kind of help fill that gap between the expectation and the actual ability to deliver utilizing these tools. So if you win, fantastic. Let's get engaged, and we're going to create this partner or this strategic plan for you and create that deliverable. It's generally about a 10-day process, assuming we get the right engagement and we can connect with the right folks within your organization. At the end of that process, you're going to have that deliverable. So if you win, fantastic. Let's get engaged. If you don't win, let's follow up. Let me know if this is something you would see some value in. All right, I'm going to do a giveaway here. I've got my attendee list. I'm going to call out a couple of folks. I did have Claude create a real-time number generator, random number generator for me. I want to double check, make sure I'm capturing anybody else who has registered here in the meantime. Let's see, okay, one more here I'm going to add to my list. Double check here. Some folks still trying to work out the process here in terms of the tools I'm using. Some folks registered for the event on LinkedIn. Some folks registered through StreamYard. I got kind of names all over the place, so I need to work on that process a little bit. But let's see. I need to see the attendees. Okay, nobody new there to add to the list. So I've got a list of folks that have registered and attended here. It looks like we're at about 24. I'm going to tell my random number generator here. Let's see. I'm going to kick that off. Okay. All right, I'm going to clear that. I'm going to get a random number and then go back to my spreadsheet. I got number 11. Gabe Escuela. He is on the call. I know he's in attendance. He's been commenting here, I believe. There he is. Gabe, you're a winner. Let's find some time to get together and talk about putting together your strategic plan. So congrats, and I look forward to engaging with you on that. Amir, hey, you're in the running. You're on the list. You're in attendance. If you win, so there are a few of us here on the call. If you've got someone you'd like to hand it over to or nominate for that, happy to work with you in that regard, if that makes more sense for you. So I'm going to clear that number. The next one is number 20. Where are we at with 20? I've got Diego. Is Diego on the line? Diego in attendance. I got to have a comment here. Well, Gabe, you're a lucky winner today. I guess the odds were in your favor. We got Diego. Are you on the line? I might have to have a fallback here. All right, my fallback here. Let's see. Gave you one twice. I don't think that can actually work. So we've got Vincent Lowe. Vincent Lowe. He's going to be my backup here. So I'm going to find Vincent here and confirm that he is in attendance. But we'll go from there. So I'm going to reach out to those folks, make sure if they're in attendance but not able to comment here, I'll engage with those folks. Anybody else on the line wants to follow up with this, grab that QR code at the top right and drop me a line, schedule some time, and we can go over it and see how we can apply this to you if there's anything that we covered today that you want to talk about. So thanks, Kurt. Appreciate that. Craig, thanks for being here. John, wanted to get back to your question. I know there's one in there. Sales training versus tech training. Yeah, so Hitwood actually does a really good job of incorporating, again, all of your product information. It can be public info. It can be stuff behind the scenes that you're feeding into it. They can ingest just about any source of data about your product. And they do technical enablement as well, so they can target typically it's sales engineers on the more technical side of things. Sometimes it could be delivery folks. I'm sure they could come up with other technical enablement content based on that audience. So they do have the ability to define different roles and different types of enablement. So yeah, John, I'll be happy to follow up with you on that and give you some details on what they're bringing to the table there for different ways to certify and train. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Gabe, we'll be in touch. Tom, thanks for dropping in. Thanks everybody for being here and participating. Any questions or you want to do some follow-up, grab that link, schedule a call, and be happy to connect with you. Otherwise, I will catch you online, or if you're going to be in New York next week at the Partnership Leaders event, it'd be great to catch up there.